Hi, I'm the Now Visitor, and you are watching Trek Culture.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our What the Hell Just Happened discussion for episode 3 of season 3 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Of course, joining me are the wonderful fuzzball, that is Ellie Littlechild, and the ever well put together Tom Roberts-Finn. How are you both?
Good.
Good. Yeah.
Good.
Excellent.
Warm. We like to talk about the weather whenever we get the chance to. It's still very hot in over here.
Yeah, I was going to make a rule for the podcast that next time, anytime anyone makes a reference to the weather, I'm going to play a big klaxon sound to stop us from doing it, because we do it every single episode.
We really do. We've taken small talk to a fine art. This was a busy episode. First of all, everyone, thank you so much, everyone who's been watching our What the Hell Just Happened videos. Totally new format, not replacing ups and downs. Our ups and downs for episode 3, Shuttle to Kenfori, will be out later on today. So enjoy that, let us know. And of course, a reminder, I'm assuming you've seen at this point, but if you're new, welcome. That our ups and downs for Hegemony Part 2 and Wedding Bell Blues are both live on the channel as well, as our I'm really bad at saying that, discussion videos for those episodes as well. Just because I saw a little bit of, as with anything new, there was a little bit of confusion in the comments. Nope, not replacing ups and downs with this. I will hold on to them with my life's blood. so yeah. There's a lot to get through this one. Top line thoughts. Tom, I'm going to come to you first. What are your top line thoughts on this episode?
Yes, again, just in case, spoilers, we are talking about spoilers in this episode. So, Shuttle to Kenfori. Top line thoughts. Not my favorite episode. A few interesting aspects in it, and lots of things to discuss, but an episode I feel like I will probably forget in some time. That's the thing with Strange New Worlds, is because of the hopping between genres and style, is that you have episodes that really jump out at you and ones that are really like, oh yeah, do you remember when they did this? And then they also have episodes like this in most seasons where you go, it's not like it's a filler, it's still Strange New Worlds, but it just hasn't got the thing to grip you as much.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
Ellie? Yeah.
I would agree. For me, zombies never really been something I'm massively gripped by anyway. I mean, they looked cool, and I can definitely appreciate what they looked like, but just for me, zombie films, yeah. Likewise, I think similarly to Tom, sometimes when it comes to Klingon stories as well, I also am not maybe as interested as other stories. So I think combined, this was another episode that, again, wasn't a bad episode, but didn't necessarily have the things that I'm massively gripped by. But there were aspects of it as well that I did really like too.
Okay, yeah, I mean, all of that fair. There was definitely bits I really enjoyed. Loved the zombie homages that obviously run through the whole thing. And I do like the Klingons, I think a lot more, certainly a lot more than Tom, but I also understand. I do. Okay, we'll get into the weeds of it now.
Good pun.
Thank you very much. If anyone obviously hasn't watched this, why are you watching this video? But that's okay. So yes, as I say, we're going to go full spoilers. We already have, but yes, full spoilers. If you haven't watched it, you can watch it on Paramount Plus. There's a link just in the description below this this video. Click it on, watch it. I felt very, very clever when I realized the title was a pun. And that is, so I've watched the episode a couple of times now, and it's one of those ones that I watched it the first time and I was exactly like yourself. I think I watched it and I went, that was my first reaction. And then I watched it again and I went, okay, actually, it's a little bit better than maybe I thought on first watch. And I have to say, I went to my zombie wars recently. Zombies were the last of the classic villains to really freak me out. So Shuttle to Kenfori. Kenfori is the actor who starred in Dawn of the Dead, which is one of the most iconic zombie films of all time, made by George A. Romero. It's, of course, a sequel to Night of the Living Dead itself. the most iconic zombie film of all time. And Kenfori then has a cameo in Zack Snyder and James Gunn's remake of Dawn of the Dead as well.
Is he the guy that like survives at the end?
He is
Spoilers
indeed.
to Dawn of the Dead.
Spoiler, I get. We don't really, but yeah.
Spoilers to like a 60-year-old film.
Little bit, and it's so I really enjoy that. Because they lean on some of the kind of the zombie, definitely the zombie tropes. I think this episode owes more than a passing nod to The Last of Us as well.
Yeah.
I mean, even if technically they're not zombies, but you know what I mean.
Whenever I see zombies, it just makes me think of Shaun of the Dead.
And you know what? I'm sure there's people that do not hate that comparison as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just can't take them that seriously because my comparisons to a film that is obviously an inherently silly film, a great film. But yeah, whenever I see zombies, it just makes me think of people walking really slowly and the funny aspects of something like Shaun of the Dead rather than maybe the more horror-focused elements.
Yeah.
No. I love it. Yeah, I need to watch that film again. I've seen it once, I think.
Really?
Only once?
Yeah, only the once.
There's an Irishman in it.
Yeah, but he's a prick. In the film, sorry. Just to throw that out there, yeah.
Yeah, he is the most annoying character in the film. I'm annoyed I didn't catch that reference. I had a big zombie phase, and I really loved the original Dawn of the Dead and all those films and Night of the Living Dead. Can I tell you my quick fact? Here's a factoid for people who might not know. So basically, Night of the Living Dead, zombies have existed for a long time in various different cultures, etc. Night of the Living Dead was the first sort of film that made that sort of iconic zombie thing that you know. But I believe they didn't trademark it. So Universal own the trademark for like Frankenstein. That's why the Frankenstein looks the iconic one of the bolts. Only looks like that in that film. They didn't trademark it for Night of the Living Dead, which is why.
Sorry, Tom. I'm just preempting the comments. Frankenstein's monster.
So I'm normally the guy that moans at people for doing that. Yes, you're correct. They didn't do that for Night of the Living Dead, which is why every zombie in every zombie film or thing ever looks the same. There's my little factoid. Isn't that interesting?
It is, which is why I believe right now you can watch both the black and white and color version of Night of the Living Dead on YouTube for free.
Probably, yeah.
And if you want to remake, although I think the Tom Savini, it's vaguely on topic. I think the Tom Savini remake in the 90s has sort of shored up that you can't just remake it now. Whereas there was like 100 sequels, unofficial, and of course there's the entire Return to the Living Dead franchise as well. Ellie's like, I know what you're talking about.
I told you before, I don't like zombies.
They are freaky. Honestly,
they are.
Zombies are freaky. But of course this is Star Trek, so there is other things as well. So the reason we meet the zombies is because, well, I like that they're not just dropping the Battelle Gorn storyline. That's something I did like. So yeah, straight away, kind of we open with the threat this week is crap, ticking clock. We need to do something, or Battelle is cooked.
I was surprised it came back this early. To be honest, I thought it was going to come back a few episodes down the road. So I was like, oh, we're doing this now, and we're also not finishing it with this episode either. It's an ongoing thing, which is interesting. I do want to quickly say we have a strange world, not a strange new world, technically new to us, but a strange world. Fine, they're getting so close, guys. I think the last episode that we're ever going to get of this is going to be a strange new world,
Shaped like a bone or something.
Yeah, I liked I like the zombie stuff, the environmental stuff, the it's moss instead of fungus. For The Last of Us, fine. Like you said, Ellie, the way they look, the makeup and everything, really cool. Again, they're doing practical effects really well in this show. I was kind of let down a bit how, and you get this with a lot of zombie shows, it very quickly becomes not about that. it becomes about something else. Which the thing that it was about, I don't know if it works so much for me, because I was more interested in what they might do with the zombie stuff, and then they went, anyway, they're in the background now, it's all about Mbenga and the Klingons. Again, wasn't expecting them to come back to this, or at least not yet. The whole, again, spoilers, Mbenga assassinating that Klingon ambassador who was working with Starfleet, and then it's his daughter who comes back to kill Mbenga. I didn't really care because I knew she wasn't going to kill Mbenga, and fine. It also leads to Mbenga admitting that he assassinated him, and Pike is like, okay, which I'm sure is another thing we want to talk about with this episode, which we've talked about with this series so far, is that there's a lot of just waving the hand at rules and regulations and how Starfleet should work. I was imagining this episode with Picard. Picard would have thrown him into the brig and got him kicked out or arrested of Starfleet. He admits to assassinating someone, and Pike goes, okay, let's move on. It's starting to make me wonder what Pike is like as a captain. Thoughts?
Yeah, because I have a lot of thoughts on this one, but Ellie, do you wanna jump in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you put it like that, yeah, you're kind of like, hello, he just admitted to doing something very terrible. Just going back to what you'd said about, I don't really care because I know Mbenga's not going to die. This is, again, I've said this before with the trailers, knowing who's going to survive, who's not going to survive. This is the danger when you've got so many legacy characters. If you put them in danger, you know they're going to be okay unless you're going to rewrite history in some way. But it kind of removes that, you have to be careful about which characters you threaten because you know the fate of a lot of them, the future of a lot of them. But what I will say is, though, although we do get this kind of admitting of him assassinating the Klingon and Pike's reaction aside, I do like the kind of disconcerting feeling we have with Mbenga, that he's so quiet and peaceful now, but he also has this really violent dark side, this dark history, and I do like that element of the character. I like that we have this backstory. I like that we see that come out every now and then, because generally on the surface he's so kind of quiet, peaceful. He's a doctor. The way he speaks, he very rarely raises his voice. So I do like that contrast when we do hear about his dark past and we start to see that violence come out in him. Maybe, the consequences of his actions and him admitting it are the issue here. But in terms of us seeing that dark side of the character again, I like it when we see that.
I do agree. I just want to say quickly that Mbenga is one of my favorite characters. Some of the stuff they're doing with him I don't like so much with what's going on in this episode. But I agree with what you said. I think if it was a show, he could be more of a Garrick character if we had the amount of episodes to explore that kind of thing. But because it's the type of show that it is, with the limited number of episodes, you're only going to get it maybe once or twice a series, and we can't fully explore it, which is a shame.
That's why I think, to your point about the fact that we came back to the storyline so quickly, I mean, I think we're, in terms of episode count, we're like 5 episodes after Under the Cloak of War, which is where this all went down. So, when the inevitable binge comes, I mean, it'll be like, it's 5 hours later. But I think Babs plays the hell out of this. Because one thing I really appreciated watching it is that, unfortunately, we can't do a thing about the amount of episodes, but we did get a scene where they're just having a chat on the shuttle. And I'm like, yes, that is something Strange New Worlds is doing well. Like, you are getting the chat in the shuttle. Now,
relationship building, character development.
100%. I think he talks about today wasn't the day to release the monster inside. And I liked that. My issue when I watched the first time around was, I didn't think they needed to definitively answer it. What happened behind the murder wall?
We discussed a lot about the reasoning behind they did that in the podcast episode. Yeah, listen to our podcast, everybody. And the different reasons they might have done it, or the impact that could have had. and just saying that's what happened again in front of your officer, and nothing happening from that. It's like, well, what was the point of
And
all
I
that?
suppose if then by having him admit that he did do it, you then had consequences from Pike's reaction, then that would have given it meaning and been a reason to have him admit that. But based on Pike's reaction, it seemed pointless him admitting it because there's no consequences. Nothing's going to come of it. Well, it might, who knows, but at the moment,
Yeah.
it was pointless.
Actually, a couple of commenters raised a good point as well. That it's funny because we're watching these are brand new episodes with all of Star Trek behind it, but they're also set in the Wild West of just before the original series, and that's sometimes a bit sort of jarring. Because yeah, I mean, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy were like, "Oh, was I supposed to file a log this week?" Oh yeah, and you're like, "Oh yeah, that is the time in which it's set." But we're also watching it with Picard, Janeway, Sisko, Archer, even though he was set before. So it is a kind of a funny thing. I do wonder sometimes if when they're writing it, they go, yes, it was set then, and people were a bit faster and looser with things like the Prime Directive and, not murdering people and, and logging everything. I don't know if it's like successfully coming across that this was a wilder time. I might, in my Trekkie heart of hearts, I might give it a bit more of an allowance for. I mean, I think about the episode Flashback where Harry Kim and Janeway are talking about how Sulu did an entire mission through the Azure Nebula and never logged it. Things like that. I do think, yes, I did kill him, and I would do it again. Probably bears mention in a report somewhere, because I think that is, if there was, and this episode has two big examples of PTSD in it, but if there was a sign of that is something that has to be dealt with, not even if it's not a case of no, I'm not talking throw him in jail or anything like that, but he literally says, and I would do it again. That's concerning.
Yeah. My worry is, say there's like something happens down the line where some of Starfleet's brought in, and it's put to this crew that not only did you go somewhere you weren't really allowed to go to, and one of your officers is admitted to assassinating someone, and Pike, what do you have to say about this? What does Pike do then? Does he say, yes, that's all true, and then they all get whatever happens, some major consequences would happen to them after that? Or does he continue the lie of, that didn't happen, I don't know about that? And then how do we feel about him and that crew afterwards? Like, where does this end? And I worry that it's more something they're not paying attention to because that's not important to what they want the show to be about. And if that's the case, then maybe rethink having it there in the first place. Or are they aware of this and they're going to address it down the line?
I think as well, the question I'm asking myself is, does it give a greater depth to the character of Mbenga? My answer is yes. I think it does. I think it's like you were saying, Ellie, we're slightly hamstruck by the fact we know Mbenga's in the original series. So at the very least, he's going to still be practicing medicine in a couple of years. So then, to your point, Thomas, is everything swept under the rug? Mm-hmm. And if it is, what does that do for his character, for his depth? Now, I mean, obviously, in the original series, yes, he's in 2 episodes. I don't remember them discussing, hey, do you remember that time you killed a Klingon? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's obviously not something that version
and
of
he's
the
obviously
character.
not the chief medical officer of the Enterprise anymore, so I guess maybe if we have some answers as to why he isn't, that could be an interesting avenue to explore. How is it that he stops being the chief medical officer between then and the original series, I suppose?
I mean, I just want, before we move on quickly, that's how I feel about most of this episode. All that stuff down the planet, it's like, zombies are cool. Okay, we're not really going to do much with them. The Klingon has that very cool whip. I like the whip. And they're going to have a death match between each other, but it doesn't really go anywhere. We've learned this stuff about Mbenga, and what does this mean? We're just going to ignore. There's lots of that with this episode, which is why I feel a bit like, okay. But moving on, The major other thing I would say about this episode is Ortegas.
Yes.
I have thoughts, but I would like to hear what you guys think.
I'm intrigued. I'm really hoping that this is going to actually lead somewhere, as opposed to just being, oh, Ortegas was acting out this time. I think it is going to go somewhere, and obviously we know that she's clearly going through something after the experience with the Gorn. I'm just hoping they're not going to turn her into a character that just keeps being reckless, and I don't want it to be cliche. I kind of want there to be a twist in there somewhere that is going to be more than just now she feels like she's invincible, or, you know. I'm also really aware that there's someone drilling downstairs, and I hope you can't hear it.
It's not coming through the mic anyway.
I think it is. Ever so... Hold on. Edit point. Edit Tom. Tom, this is an edit point. Ever so slightly sometimes there's a low, but it's really no issue in the
cool.
grand scheme of things.
I just forgot our bathroom, there's a pipe leaking somewhere, and my stepdad's basically like taken the wall apart.
Yeah, no worries.
But I was just really aware that I was talking and all I can hear is that. Yeah, I feel like that was kind of the end of the point though, so you could probably carry on from there.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, you give me any second of Ortegas, and I'm like, more Ortegas. And because I'm watching this, and she is reckless, and she endangers the ship. Now, it's one of those things, it's for good reason, but, like, I loved the scene between herself and Una in the reading room. I loved that, because I think it was handled perfectly, because I love how Rebecca Romijn plays that scene. She's like, I can understand what you're going through, but you are also an officer who just disobeyed a direct order. Yeah. I mean, that's you don't walk away from that. You I need to pull you. And if she didn't do that, it would not have worked. There's no kind of like, oh, well, the ends justify the means. Not when you have a Klingon battlecruiser sitting right there, and you have what else is going on. And also, what would Pike have done in that situation? No, I loved how they played that. And I'm with you on that one, Ellie. I think this is... It would be something that if this was the end of it, it would feel unfulfilled. Like, okay, she got her wrist slapped, that's the end of it. No, I think we've got PTSD. I think this is something we are going to explore. I want them to explore it. And I like that it was sort of a slow-ish reveal. Like, she kind of speaks up in the briefing. And yeah, maybe she's out of line. Snapping at Uhura was like, don't do that. She's your friend. You know, that's bold. But I do like straight away. Do you know how it's really quiet? La'an. So we're going to talk about Ortegas? I love it. It is no kind of like gradual, oh, well, the signs weren't there. They were there and they were called out.
Yeah. She's very clearly acting differently. Yeah, I agree. I really like that as well. I like that it wasn't just ignored and that Una was like, you can't do that. But that led me into going, well, Pike is okay with someone assassinating someone, but if you talk out of line, naughty.
Don't put your own shipmates in risk. Everything else is fine.
Yeah. You can assassinate someone, but if you talk to me in a way I do not like, we're going to have a talk. This is what I mean by it. They don't really match up for me. I am worried about... I don't like the trope of this character is now arrogant and annoying and abrasive. If that's just what we're going to get, I think I'm going to be annoyed by it, because turning a character that we've always wanted more of, we finally get more of her and she's irritating, that's going to be frustrating. Quick side tangent, have you guys watched the show Ted Lasso?
Yes.
Okay, we've all watched Ted Lasso. There is a character in Ted Lasso who turns from being a sort of meek, quiet character into like a main antagonist for most of the series. And I always hated that they did that, because they turn a character that I liked into someone I didn't like, and then I have to feel sorry for them by the end of it. I'm like, I don't. And I don't want them to do that here as well. I think it would be a mistake. I want to explore this stuff that's going on with her. You know, is she turning into a Gorn by the end of it? Is it like the scene in Lord of the Rings where Bilbo goes, but it's like a Gorn face? That would be good. But yes, I'm I'm worried. I didn't like that aspect so much in this episode, but it did lead to some stuff I did like between her and Una. I think that's mostly this episode.
That's pretty much covering everything. Obviously, we'll have the ups and downs be out later on. There's more stuff I'm going to go into in more detail. There's also another couple of really fun zombie Easter eggs in there as well, which I'm just looking forward to going through. So before we finish, so we now have at least a couple of episodes so we can do a ranking. Tom, episodes 1, 2, and 3, where would you rank them now?
I'm going to put this at the bottom, I believe. So episode 2 is number 1, episode 1 is number 2, and then 3 is episode 3.
Okay.
Again,
I'm going to jump in. Sorry, the drilling has stopped.
Okay,
Jumping in quickly.
Hooray!
I would also agree with that. I think I have episode 2 at 1, episode 1 at 2, and episode 3 at 3. I confused myself then, but that's where mine is.
Yeah.
I am going to take the slightly controversial approach of episode 2 at number 1, episode 3 at number 2, and episode 1 at number 3. Okay, brilliant. I like the dissension in the ranks that we're having. I feel like Ortegas. But excellent. Okay, thank you both so much. Thank you everyone who's watching along. We will be back next week as we cover episode 4, A Space Adventure Hour. I believe there's been some discussion about this episode. Sure, I wouldn't know anything about that. It'll be grand. We'll cover it when we get to it. Folks, everyone look after yourself. Yous are awesome. Remember, the ups and downs will be coming later on today, so keep an eye out for that as well. Thank you, everyone. There has been a little bump in subscribers, so thank you so much for the people who have subscribed recently. Thank you for our returning subscribers. And if you're watching this without having subscribed, maybe consider it, and you would be awesome. And we love you. You're brilliant. You're wonderful. Live long and prosper, and we'll chat to you soon.